Hi there, and welcome to the first episode of the Dark Tower podcast, Radio Free Midworld. If you have listened to the pilot, this is a re-presentation of that, but I would recommend that you stick around for the first portion of the episode just so you can get the business side of things and know kind of what's coming up next. So this show is going to be coming out every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, opposite another show that runs on the network, Those Damn Ross Kids is the name of it. I'm going to have a list of what each episode is going to cover made up as each season comes around. The first book, the Gunslinger, is going to be 5 episodes, one for each of the 5 chapters. So if you're curious about that, go and get it. If you are going to be taking any deep dives into the series and reading along with us, I ask that you purchase them. If you use Amazon, purchase them through our tip jar link. This is kind of an affiliate thing. It is a way to support this show and to support the network. Go to Duckfeed.tv/tipjar. Use the link there to go to Amazon and then add anything you want to the cart, including the audiobook stuff. And we get a small cut of it as we kind of go forward. I'll have more details about kind of the business stuff as things go along, as we get a real site for this and have a place to put the reading list. But right now, the biggest thing you can do to help out this show is to rate and review this on iTunes when it goes up. It doesn't happen immediately, but keep an eye out. That way we can skyrocket up those lists for whatever relevant categories there are and maybe get some more attention. I'm super excited about this project. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've spent the last month re-listening to the entire series so I can know what the hell I'm talking about. And boy, there's just so much to say. So because there's so much to say, why don't we get right to it, to episode number 1. And you're going to hear me from about 8 months ago talking with a bunch of friends. But yeah, check it out. Let us know what you think. Write in with your thoughts on the series, all of that. And thank you so much for helping make this project possible. Welcome to Radio Free Midworld, a close reading and discussion of Stephen King's Dark Tower series. My name is Kole Ross, and I am joined tonight by Murph Murphy.
How's it going, guys?
Jeremy Greer.
Hello, hello.
And Evan Jones Thorne.
Hi there.
Hey, thanks so much for hopping on to talk about this on the pilot/premiere episode of this show we've been talking about doing for a long time.
You could say it's the first shot.
Yes.
I see what you did there.
Wow. Right at the beginning, we're setting the tone of the show. I like that.
I think that we gotta get the bad out. we gotta get those puns out. We gotta roll with
man.
it. Yeah. So yeah, we're starting here. This episode is going to be about the first chapter of The Gunslinger, which is confusingly also called The Gunslinger. And I want to kind of get everybody, like a baseline here of everybody's kind of experience with the Dark Tower series. Again, by Stephen King. Jeremy and Evan, I think you guys are going to have to battle it out for who's been with this the longest.
I'm going to probably say Jeremy has.
Yeah.
I kind of started reading the series in high school. I was around 15, 16, which seems like a pretty common age for it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right. I was, let's see, I read The Stand in 6th grade, and I did The Dark Tower in 7th grade right after that. So that's probably, I don't remember grades. You guys have kids. What are grades? What age does that make me? Like 12, 13? So yeah, something around that.
Yeah. Wow. That is that is challenging subject matter in some places.
I have no idea why my mom let me read The Stand when I was so young. That was a bad decision.
She probably figured more pages equals better than, like, oh, it's good that he's reading this massive book.
I think I was reading Star Trek novels, which were essentially nerd romance novels, except the girls were green at that age. So, it's about the same.
Yeah. And I was messing around over there on Pern. At that age.
God.
Yeah. Oh, which of these do you think is aged the best?
I've got one guess. It's not Dragon Riders of Pern.
I know, right? It was in the middle school library, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so,
I read all of those and I thought they were so great, and they do not hold up.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, if we had like an abject suffering show for bad books, that would really go on there.
Oh man, if that ever happens, I want to come in and talk about all 27 Xanth novels that I have read in my life. Wow,
all 27, Jesus.
I didn't.
Yeah. So it sounds like I came to this pretty late compared to you guys, because I started reading Stephen King with On Writing when I towards the tail end of college, and then after I graduated college and I was looking for a job, it was like, well, I need to find something to fill my time. Why not The Stand? And then The Stand, because I liked Randall Flagg so much, I was like, all right, well, where else does this guy pop up? And everybody...
And the answer is every other book that he wrote.
Yep. But again, I was looking for something to fill this in. So I was I was a 23-year-old person when I just chowed through all the Dark Tower books in 5 months.
Wow. I guess that makes me the baby.
Hey, little baby Murph. Hey, buddy.
Oh, hey. That's ironically probably the oldest person on this podcast, but
you're the newcomer.
So I'm the baby. Stephen King is just not part of my nerd language, I guess.
Yeah,
like that and Harry Potter are my two great nerd shames that I haven't read. But I have read The Stand, and I know that Stephen King makes some really good and also some really bad movies. I guess Silver Bullet, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
But so yeah, no, this is I've only read the first chapter of The Gunslinger, and that's all I've read of this series. So I'm the new fresh voice who's got the fresh perspective, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting, because when you're here, we're gonna have to not spoil things. I think in general, if we're going to take the tack of kind of walking somebody through this series, it might be best to not really explicitly say what something means or where it comes from. But I think that with most spoilers like this, we can speak obliquely.
Right. And I'm not going to, this is, let me say, I'm enjoying the book. I'm not going to go on a murderous rampage if suddenly I find out what is it? Algoon something or other.
Algul Sienta.
Yeah. If I find out exactly what that is.
Yeah. Well, in time, which is a wheel or ka. I forget how it goes. we haven't gotten to a lot of the mysticism stuff, but yeah. So there's that, and also getting a fresh take on this too, because this is my second go through the series.
Yeah, this will be my third, I think.
Okay, wow.
I can't tell you how many times I've reread the first 3 or 4, and then the back 5, 6, and 7 I've probably read 2 or 3 times. But the first 3 or 4 I've read I read the first 3 probably 12 times growing up. I loved this series growing up. It was insane.
Oh, you're an old hand at that. Yeah, definitely. Wow.
Yeah, I definitely think that the first 4 books kind of work well as a set, and then the back 3 are almost companion pieces to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's getting ahead of
agree
ourselves.
with that.
And I can agree, because I've only read the first chapter, and he's really set up a very nice kind of world here. And the character seems mysterious to me. I guess you guys know him as an old friend, but for me, it's this kind of, I don't know what to think about this guy yet, guys. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Oh man, I'm on the edge of my seat.
That's a really deliberate decision on his part at this point, right? He's not even named until till the last couple pages of this chapter, 70 pages in.
I mean, he's very clearly trying to evoke a Western feel. Which the man with no name rolls into town and serves justice, but in this one,
and he very explicitly talks about that. He says that he wanted to write his Lord of the Rings, and then one day was at the movie theater and saw The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and was like, I want to do Lord of the Rings, but with cowboys, and went from there. I'm curious if any of y'all have a different take on Roland than I do, because I grew up seeing him basically as Clint Eastwood, not even knowing the Good, the Bad, the Ugly connection. But now that they've announced that Idris Elba is going to be playing him in the movie, are y'all picturing Idris Elba in this, or you have your own kind of composite you're doing of Roland? Or because to me, he'll always be Clint Eastwood.
I definitely had kind of a Clint Eastwood type picture in my head, but it was mainly from the covers of the books themselves. Yeah. Which kind of fit the description in the novels. But when they announced that Idris Elba was playing him in the film, I got really excited because it's highly impractical to cast young Clint Eastwood.
They could do like they did with Jeff Bridges in Tron Evolution.
Oh boy,
they could, but they shouldn't.
I know.
But I was really excited when they cast Idris Elba, because I think that he's absolutely got the gravitas to pull off the character, and it's such a different take. And just necessarily, as we get further into the series, it's going to affect all of the characters and how they all interact and the relationships between them in some potentially really interesting ways.
I was happy because it made a lot of people mad.
That was great too.
but no, so it's funny. I went into this after the Dark Tower, like the seventh book was out, and that has this really goofy painting of what appears to be an aged Clint Eastwood on the front of it, and so like that makes sense in context, but it's like, where in the hell does this come from? And so I kind of can't separate that image when I look at it, you know, even now, knowing what it was supposed to be modeled after, like that he is supposed to be, like, at least at this point, young. I still can't like separate that.
So me not having like this built up thing in my brain, like Idris Elba, yeah, he's a tough dude. Like he's just weathered is just what I got from the description. Like the fact that he eats some bacon that has been in a fire pit that is at least 2 months old.
Yeah.
Like that dude is rough. And like he likes that bacon. Like that's like, oh man, this is a treat.
Ooh, protein.
Yeah, 2-month-old bacon.
Yum. Yeah. So yeah, like Stephen King mentions this in the kind of like intro here, this little essay at the start on being 19. You know, those influences. He also talks about how he wanted to write the longest popular novel in history, which seems like a real strange thing to chase as its own. And he like tries to disclaim it, saying like, yeah, you know, I know it's not everything, but I wanted to do this. But like that explains a lot. Like,
yeah, that definitely jumped out at me as well, especially like kind of being familiar with the whole series. There's definitely some choices that get made later on that are clearly working towards that goal.
But yeah, you know, he talks about like, and so this is another piece of context for anybody who hasn't been following this. Like Stephen King has been writing this for pretty much his entire professional life.
Right, and that's something that I'm kind of interested in watching, because this came out in the earlier in the 80s, right? And I assume that even Stephen King will improve on his writing. It's just something that happens, right?
Yeah. So that gets a little bit weird. This came out in 1982, and it was revised, pretty much entirely rewritten in 2003. However, it does improve just in general in terms of, I would even say like it gets really tight in the pacing sometime toward the end of 2 and going through most of 3. Like he really hits his stride there, but like you're going to see him as he kind of matures.
Right. And I don't want to cast dispersions. Like this is not bad writing. It's just not particular. I don't know. This is not the great American novel. This is not Moby Dick,
right?
At least this first chapter is not. This first chapter is a power fantasy about a guy who, and I guess spoilers for the first chapter, like runs into town, kills everybody, and has sex with some women or a woman, and then leaves. Like we can get into the gender stuff later, but oh boy,
yeah.
But like this is power fantasy 101.
This book in particular, especially compared with the rest of the series, kind of almost reminds me of a debut album where it's you can kind of see where the later celebrated stuff is going to come from, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, like it hasn't even like found its voice or found its stride. Like this version of Roland doesn't square up with what we see of him later, especially once he starts finding, well, he never really finds a purpose other than the tower, but finding other stuff to care about besides just forward.
Yeah, it's a much rougher, rawer take on the story and the world, and it's compelling in its own sort of way. And the scaffolding for what's to come is definitely there, and you can see it looking back. but it's definitely got its issues.
Yeah.
So we were discussing stuff in the backstage, if you will, and you guys seem to focus more on the fact that he's the character of Roland, and for me, he's really a blank slate right now. So I'm more interested in the world right now than I am about the Gunslinger per se. But so I assume, just from context clues, that changes.
You're going to get a lot of both of those. You get a very thorough exploration of who Roland is as a character, and you throughout the course of the book, you kind of travel along the world. The only thing I would caution you and anybody who else doesn't read this, and Cole, I think I stole this from you in Slack, is like the world it has no like a core magic system at its heart. Like there is no like set of rules. Stephen King just makes the stuff up as he goes along, and as whatever he needs the world to do, the world will do at that point.
So he's no Brandon Sanderson.
He's no Brandon Sanderson. I was almost going to exactly quote that. There is no. This is not Rhythmatist or anything. So like, don't go in expecting anything like that.
Yeah, like don't expect a series that was written with a Bible drawn up ahead of time. Like if you're expecting any kind of consistency, this is really going to throw you off. You might, in fact, it might even anger you.
Well, I mean, and that's what I mean. From what I've read of Stephen King, he's not about hard stuff. He has this kind of magical realism sort of feel, which the tropes of that kind of story are like, oh, there are no real hard rules. It's just about, hey, this weird thing happened, and like, and if we can go back to our, maybe the network strength video games, the Kentucky Route Zero, 3/4 Home, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I got like, for some reason, 3/4 Home was a lot on my mind, and I'm not really sure why when I was reading this, but have you guys played that? And two, am I completely insane?
I have not played it, so I might have to bow out from it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
All right.
I haven't played it, and you are also completely insane.
All right. Well, yeah. I didn't say it was multiple choice.
It's a radio button, not a check mark.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Have any of you read the story that was included with the original release of? I want to say it was this book about the magical paper that he found that kind of is at the center of him writing this story. Have any of you seen that or read that? Because it's not in the digital version that I bought off of the Kindle store like yesterday.
I read it back when I was about 15. I don't really remember anything about it.
I just find that a kind of an interesting point of history, because he finds like this special paper in a weird part of his life that he wants to treat with respect. And I remember when I was a teenager reading that, and it kind of made me, at the time I was like this, I had all these thoughts in my head and all of this like angst and pain or whatever, and like that kind of really spoke to me about having special paper that you're going to write a special book on, and it's total garbage. Like it doesn't mean anything, but him actually going through the process, and there is a thing about him finding more of this paper and then writing part of the second book on and getting inspired to write more. And I just wanted to mention it. If you, Murph and Cole, if you haven't read that, it's worth tracking down. I'll try to get some screenshots and send it to you, because it kind of shows a little history that doesn't seem to be included in the recent releases of the book.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I want to get as much information about this as possible. Do you know if there's a title for that? I'll try and put it in the show notes if there is.
I will find one out before the end of the episode. So.
Okay. Yeah. So we should probably move through into the actual kind of chapter itself here. I don't know if we have a time thing or not. This is a pilot. We're still figuring it out. But why don't we get started?
This book starts with maybe my favorite opening line in all of literature.
Oh wow!
Just the man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Like that's evocative as shit, you guys.
It really is evocative. One of my favorite words. I picture it in like in silhouette, like from the side, like with the gunslinger at the far left of the frame and the man in black at the right. Like that is what I see when I think of that.
Yeah, same here.
That's basically a seed for a million D&D campaigns.
it's so simple, right? Like I don't know, like it sets up at least the purpose for all of this book. Like it gets complicated, it gets far more complicated, but like this notion of pursuit, of being driven forward, is like encapsulated. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is that's the first thing, like that was the seed for the story that Steve McKay, like this came first.
Yeah, it was that sentence, and then everything else kind of fell into place around it.
Yeah.
And while we're picking out individual sentences, actually, one of my favorite sentences is the second sentence. Guys, this is a sentence by sentence.
I called it a close reading.
In.
Episode 47, page 2.
Right. Remind me to talk about that darn cat podcast. But the desert was an apotheosis of all deserts, huge, standing in the sky, what looked like eternity in all directions. Like, and so we've set up the premise of the book. It's, pursuit, and then he just sets up this world in the next sentence.
Yeah, that the world building is my favorite part about this book. And as I was rereading the first chapter for this, I was struck again just with how many little details there are that you just kind of don't even notice that he's slipping in, like this vocabulary, and there's a sense of geography and culture and religion and folklore and all this stuff that isn't really ever explicitly laid out.
Yeah.
But you kind of pick it up as you go. And there's the fact that there are some words that are different. They refer to objects that we are familiar with, but they're different words than we use. Mm-hmm. Like he talks about Brown having neither bolt nor bar. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you find out a while later, I don't even know if it's in this book, but you find out later that a ba is a crossbow.
Yep.
But that's
right.
You kind of find it out incidentally. And I love that he doesn't make those types of details explicit. None of the world is spoon-fed to you. It's just kind of there, and you're dropped into the middle of it.
It's the best when he decides not to explain stuff.
That's, I think, true of pretty much all of King's work.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I said in the Slack earlier as well, like, this is probably, the world right now is probably the best that I'm going to like it, just because I don't know any of the specifics. So my imagination right now is just filling in, like, what are all these people with crazy raven heads and
the Taheen, yeah.
What's like, why are there just madmen? Why are people just out in the desert farming corn? Like, that makes no what? But I mean, I guess it does. And then there's water 15 feet down. Mm-hmm. Why is that? What's going on?
Yeah, like the world has moved on. Like nothing is quite right, and he's pointing out all these ways that it doesn't quite square up. I'm going to get this comparison out of the way, so you don't have to make it, Jeremy, so I can take this cross on for myself. But like, people who've listened to Bonfireside Chat have known that this has been in the works for a while, this show, because like, we talked about this on an episode of that show, like, how awesome would it be because of these similarities between the Dark Tower and Dark Souls in a lot of ways, and thematic ways that we won't understand until much later. But also this idea that like you are getting those snippets that like may or may not pay off and are almost entirely indirect. And usually shown to you through the eyes of one character or another. But something that we should know about that is that because this is revised and because it was kind of rewritten around the time that King was finishing up or outlining the final 3 books of the series, a lot of those details are actually kind of like backfilled.
Okay. So yeah, like, again, I'd never read the original, and now I'm just getting the revised portion, which is, I guess, is the ideal way to do it. I would think. I don't know.
Man, I'm really torn on that, because Evan talked a little bit earlier about how the book it's kind of raw compared to the rest of the series, and I really felt like the Gunslinger was always the best out of the series, bar none. Like, it's my favorite book out of all of them, and it was because it had a weird dreamlike quality to it. Like, it has some really bad politics, don't get me wrong, but it was almost kind of like this ethereal thing, like it existed upon itself, and then King took one version of that and just ran with it. Mm-hmm. And the changes that he makes are very explicitly connecting this novel to the later novels, and you see it scattered throughout. For instance, I did a search on the word 19 in the Kindle version that I bought either yesterday or this morning, and there's like a whole list of it. And I had my wife do the same thing on her PDF version, and there are literally no instances of the word 19.
I didn't. I think I read the original version. This is the first time that I'm reading the revised version, and I didn't remember anything about 19 from before, but I just chalked it up to the fact that it hadn't been a while. So that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And there's also some very explicit call-outs to characters, to to past plot lines that he had not plotted out yet that occur way later in the series. And to me, and this is rough because it's something I read as a kid, and whenever you go back to those things and they've changed it all, you kind of don't like it on instinct. So it's really hard for me to separate my adoration of this book as a child from now reading it from a more critical point of view. But a lot of the changes just don't work for me at all. And I don't want to say that like across the board, because I've only read the first chapter of this, so I'm not sure what else happens. But
yeah, is it a little bit like the Star Wars Special Edition kind of thing, where like I don't know why you change that except to just indulge in that?
You know, when I showed my wife Star Wars for the first time, there's a scene in one of the special editions where you see Jabba the Hutt walking with Han Solo.
Oh, God.
And she turned to me and she goes, "Why would you ever show that guy walking?" And I said, "I have no idea." So I hadn't put that together in my head until you just asked that question. So absolutely. Yeah, it's like, why would you make this change? Like, just some really interesting stuff there.
Yeah. I can say, as somebody who has completed the series, coming back to this with a fresh eye, like all of those little details that used to be incredibly mysterious and had no context, now I know the context for them, and definitely the world feels a little bit smaller because of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I think that my biggest issue with the revision, based on having read just the first chapter, is it feels less self-contained to me. And
Absolutely.
I think that what I really loved about the Gunslinger the first two times that I read it, which was in my dad's paperback from probably 1982 when it came out, is I loved how immediate and how self-contained and how complete it felt. Even though, yeah, there's some really, really rough gender politics, and there's some kind of clumsy narrative devices here and there. Like, it's not perfect, but it was really, really cool in what it was. And then in the larger context of the series, I felt like it had its own very distinctive tone that was very different from even the second book.
Yeah.
So I have a question while we're still talking about revisions here. When we talked about 19, and I'm talking about that note, and this bugs me, and because I'm weird in some ways, and some things bug me like that. But there's a Unicode smiley face in my Kindle copy.
Yeah.
Is that new? Because I don't think they had Unicode. Well, they might have.
There was definitely, I don't remember exactly how it's done, but there was definitely, like, in a lot of King's books, if you go back, there's a lot of like weird characters and stuff. Like, he likes to include handwritten notes from one character to the next that have very specifically smiley faces. That's a very big thing.
Okay.
So I don't remember what it was in the original paperback, but I can't find mine to look it up. I think it just finally fell apart, disintegrated. But
no, I'm not objecting to the smiley face. I'm just so it's in this kind of in this handwritten font. I think it's Calypso.
Yeah.
But then there's just like this Unicode smiley face that is not in the font, and it's a little jarring.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's especially jarring if, like me, you're reading white text on black because the whole thing is the wrong color.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Makes it feel eerie. We should move on to sentence number 3.
Yeah, we should.
No. But this kind of opening movement is all about kind of establishing the character of the gunslinger, and this is, at least for this chapter, the most kind of advanced in time. Like, this happens after everything else in the chapter, and everything else is like nested flashbacks. So one of my favorite descriptors that I think gives a really good kind of description of what of who the gunslinger is they describe him as the kind of person who would straighten pictures in strange hotel rooms.
Yeah, that's it. And I took that, and because we see him, he's following the sorcerer, right? And he's a man who cares about law, not necessarily justice,
Right.
but order and law. And maybe I'm completely whatever, but I think that also tells us a little bit about the man that he's going after as
I think
well.
order is a good word to use there.
Yeah.
Same. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he is a gunslinger, and that is a term of art in this world.
Right.
You know, when he talks about Gilead, when he talks about his past as what he kind of used to be, and we're going to see that with his training and kind of the next chapters, those flashbacks. You know, like this is not explicitly like a cowboy. He's not a lawman.
No, he's clearly something else.
Yeah.
What was the secret trick his fingers did?
Yeah, the reloading trick.
Yeah, like that. Like, and I'm glad that he doesn't describe what that is, because again, all right, I'm not delivering this. No, all right, I'm gonna go on.
Yeah, but yeah, we also get like very little kind of sense of what this guy looks like. We just kind of get from his actions. But yeah, like just like those particular details, and we also get that he is having this kind of strange sense of deja vu about his dying friends, and a pretty big hook toward the end of the story there. Yeah,
right. That's the big mystery I came with. From this chapter is what happened. It's clearly something happened, right? Something has happened to the world, and something has happened to the gunslinger, and I don't know either, but I know neither is right.
Yeah.
Well,
the world
the book explicitly tells you that the world has moved on. Dang it, Evan, you got me.
Yeah.
If you're going to take the first line of the book as your favorite, which is also my favorite, the world has moved on is the thing that I just really, really enjoy. Like it says so much in such a compact sentence that I very much love that.
Yeah. And like that is a refrain that doesn't just apply to the world. They even use that when talking about Allie, you know, when talking about the kind of the romantic interest for this chapter. You know, to describe just kind of the rundown state of everything, even the people here, you know, and the rules don't apply. Like West isn't West anymore, which is an incredibly upsetting notion.
Yeah, and I hate to bring Dark Souls up again, but stuff's all timey-wimey again. Time doesn't hold, direction doesn't hold. Nobody seems to care, which is even more disturbing.
Yeah. Well, when he goes to meet Brown, who I always think is called Zoltan, but no, that's his bird. He doesn't know how long it's been since the Man in Black passed through, right? Like the gunslinger says, like, yeah, you know, I've been chasing him for 8 months, but who knows? And he gets there, and Brown says, like, yeah, it could have either been 2 months, 6 weeks. Does it matter?
Yeah, his only form of time is that the bean guy has been by twice to sell beans, which I don't know. My bean guy comes whenever he wants to, so I don't know if his bean guy's on a schedule, but
that's weird. My bean guy just knows when to show up.
Oh, man, bean guys are weird, huh?
Yeah, man.
It's a mystical craft.
Yeah. And man, this is like, what is up with Brown? What is Brown doing?
Scraping by.
Is he? But like what?
Yeah, the whole concept is super interesting, right? Because you have this guy in the middle of basically nowhere, and he talks about commerce. Like, he talks about exchanging, going to the city that we're going to get to, and then going to the Tull, and then not wanting to go over there, but also like having commerce with this bean guy. Like, but for what purpose? Like, where is the money coming from? What are you spending it on? Like, you live in the middle of nowhere with a bird. Like, what are you doing?
He had a wife, but like, yeah, like he had a wife at some point, and like I got the feeling that was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, he's described, you know, he's kind of a mountain man. He's got this wild shock of red hair with this long beard, and his best friend is a bird who, you know, shouts vulgarities at him. You know,
right?
Yeah, and it's not even that he has commerce with the people of Tull, who he doesn't really trust. It's that 1 year he had a bumper crop of corn because they got 15 minutes of rain.
Yeah, this is just like this world is just fucked.
Which
like that.
I mean, like this wasn't always a desert.
Oh man, and I kind of like that. I get the impression that he wouldn't even talk to the bean guy if you could just survive on corn.
Yeah.
But I mean, you need some protein.
Man, can I live on corn alone? No,
I mean, yeah.
And he's just barely scraping by. Like after the gunslinger drinks from his well, he says, "Hey, if you need to piss, can you piss on my corn?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem." Like just the extreme privation that is happening here. But he is still willing to share with somebody who's a gunslinger, even though like Brown kind of knows that that the gunslinger. It's weird that I'm not naming him because I think it's important that he's not named until the end. But like he knows that the gunslinger is like from this, like he recognizes what a gunslinger is or was or used to be, and it's like, yeah, I know you think I'm a sorcerer left by that guy. You're just gonna have to trust that I'm legit,
right? And then maybe I'm moving a little bit further here, like. After the gunslinger basically lays out his confession that I just killed 40 plus people, he doesn't seem particularly upset.
Brown's just kind of like, okay, well, you've said this, you feel bad, you're not a demon.
Right.
So
I guess
also, could you please not kill me before you leave?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a line in there too of when the gunslinger is laying that story out to Brown. And at some point, I believe when he goes down to the well, right? When he goes out of the well, he kind of suspects, like, I'm down here. Brown could just throw a rock at me and kill me and steal all my stuff. And I think it's around here where he says I don't remember the exact phrase. I should have made a note of it. But, like, the only thing that he's not prepared to deal with is losing his own mind. Something to that extent. And that's kind of a fascinating thing to me. Like, this guy's set upon almost an endless quest at this point. Like he pretty much thinks it's going to take forever, his entire lifetime, to catch this guy, and thinking like, I am prepared for anything but losing my mind. Like that's a kind of it strikes to the heart when you say that he wants to have order when he's straightening those paintings in the hotel room. Like he's prepared to do anything, and he'll do it with precision, except he just doesn't want to become a mad person, become one of those crazed weirdos out in the desert.
Yeah. He doesn't want to become like the Man in Black, because when we see who the Man in Black is, like when we get an offhanded description, he's talked about in terms of gibbering madness and craven smiles. And what's funny is like whenever Roland kind of remarks on kind of like, oh, I'm not sure if I can trust my senses at this point, he always says like, oh, it's kind of funny, like haha, like all he can do is just kind of laugh to himself internally to like kind of cope with being put off balance like that.
Yeah, I think maybe my favorite part about Brown kind of plays into that a little bit, which is, there is the doubt as to whether Brown is an illusion or a trap left by the Man in Black, and Brown acknowledges that, and Roland wants to believe that he's real, that he's not going crazy, that there's all this stuff, and there's all this doubt, and there's all this foreshadowing, but Brown never gives any reason not to trust him.
Right.
And then after Roland leaves, that's just it. Like he's just this weird dude who lives in the middle of nowhere. And there's all of this like potential implication, but that's it. Nothing actually happens, and that's so interesting to me.
Yeah. There's also something kind of cool there where like this lowliest of people, like Brown seems good. Like he's doing it for himself, but like, can you think of it, like of anything more pathetic than just kind of living off of a row of corn that is watered by the piss of passersby? Like
he seems happy with it though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to take it away from Brown, but like the fact that Roland is looking at the world around him and seeing threats even in this kind of talks about maybe what he's seen from the Man in Black before.
Yeah. The thing is, I think Brown is the only person in this world that I have currently met who I could say is a good person.
Right.
Like the only one. Mm-hmm. Which again gets back to, man, this world is fucked.
Yep.
That's one thing I like about the series as a whole, and I don't getting a little bit ahead, but like hardly anybody can be considered a good person. Most of the characters in the story are deeply, deeply flawed, and the one that you could even go to that has kind of an innocence about him is, I guess, not flawed, but he becomes flawed in his quest with this stuff. So it's a really I like the fact that you don't know what anybody's Like I like the fact that nobody is innocent 100%.
Nobody is innocent, but the good guys, they work on getting better.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's also funny here because this is a confession too. Like they're talking and, Brown asks, "Hey, what's on your mind?" And the gunslinger says, "Oh, have you heard of Tull?" He's like, "Go ahead."
No, actually, Brown doesn't though.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he straight up does not. Like Roland, the gunslinger expects him to, but Brown never asks. So he's like, "Well, should I?" He's
talk? Like, "Oh, I don't want to bring it up for myself." Like
exactly.
There we go. Yeah, I forgot about that detail. So it's like, you go ahead.
No, just say like Brown is. I don't know. He's completely checked out of this world.
Yeah.
That's the first clue I think that the gunslinger has that something may be amiss here, is that this dude is not behaving the way he would expect him. The gunslinger would expect him to behave. Like he's not asking questions. He's not saying, "Oh, you're a gunslinger. Is there anything of the old world left?" or anything like that. He's just, "Hey, I'm going to make some beans if you can pay for some beans," and that's what we're going to do. The other thing I like about this is that the narrative structure here, and that we open up with him chasing the man in black, and then he picks up the piece of bacon we talked about earlier, and then starts remembering his time with Brown, and then during his time with Brown, he starts telling this story about what just happened in Tull. So we're kind of within a story within a memory, and I always kind of dig that when books do that. Like if they can pull it off, which the first chapter does pretty well, I dig it.
It's a nesting doll. So yeah, let's go one layer deeper as he, as the gunslinger describes what happened in this town of Tull, which is just like if you looked for the dictionary definition of like dying Western town, Tull would match it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got the kind of the broken kind of lights, and here's one of my favorite details about Tull, and it's the Beatles song "Hey Jude."
Yep.
Okay. And that the fact that this is a quote unquote modern song being played. Mm-hmm. Is that what came out 60s roughly? I'm not a huge Beatle-phile, but like we are very clearly something has happened to the modern world.
This is so far into the future that it might be the past, or who knows?
Yeah, no, but and that's it. This is, and "Hey Jude" is also just probably one of the more haunting Beatles songs.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you have this whole town full of like toothless and sick people screaming "nah, nah," like explicitly. They're on the chorus for this entire like walk in.
Just sounds like the worst karaoke joint you could possibly go to.
Yeah, but that's kind of coming out of this honky tonk, which again, it's got the batwing doors, and there's a short confrontation with a couple of local toughs, these kids who are missing eyes and have got like just pieces missing off of them.
Oh, and he's got a scorpion tail in his hat. Like, what is going on with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one kid who tells him where he can get food, the rest of them like gang up on the kid for being nice.
Yep, to an outsider.
Yeah.
And kissing his sister, because apparently incest is like a big thing in this town, which is super gross.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird sex stuff happening here that if you're just going along with this, like if you're reading this or listening to the show to kind of get a glimpse of the story, there's going to be weird sex stuff in this first book, and it is far less frequent throughout the rest of the series. So like not to be prudish or anything, but like if that is a thing that puts you off.
I don't know. It gets pretty weird in the rest of the books too.
It gets arguably weirder, but it's infrequent.
Yes.
I'm okay without being a prude about incest. Like, sex positive.
Yep.
Do what you like unless you're hurting people.
Right.
But
do what you like unless it's your cousin.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So
not good.
Again, we're getting snapshots of the world through interactions here as he goes through the bowing doors into this honky tonk and immediately sidles up to the bartender, Allie, this woman who has this horrible scar, like one eye is entirely scarred over. Talking about, she must have been pretty at one time, but the world has moved on.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up this part. I'm just going to, because there's no real. What is going on? Is this a function of the world? Like women are losing fertility, or what is going on with women and wanting sex in this book?
So,
but this is the only example of that. I mean, I think this is like, it's just kind of her thing. Like, and she talks about it a little bit later about her need and her desire that she can't really control. I think at a certain point, like, women have the same kind of desires as dudes do, and it's just brought out because there are no single fellas out there for her. Like, it's just a dry town.
I'm like, I can definitely see that, and then but like the way it's kind of treated, and then later on when he's in the church and he talks about his desire for is it Sylvia?
Yeah, Sylvia, the preacher.
Right, so it feels like the fact that I don't like there's kind of a parallel there. Like I kind of got a hint that something was going on, possibly with sex, but maybe I just hadn't gotten far enough in the book. But this could just be Stephen King being weird.
Yeah, so it's very much Stephen King being weird. There is, something to do with like just mutations happening because of, just again the world moving on. When Roland orders those burgers and says like, hey, give me your best, give me your threaded stock. Right. He says like, oh, whatever this came from must have had 6, maybe 8 legs, something like that. Like it's mostly seen in like the livestock, but even like human mutations, like not all of these scars or deformities are because the world is just tough. Like people just come out fucked up because of this. I don't know what that has to do with sex drives. The way Allie phrases it is actually kind of strange. She says, as the gunslinger starts talking to her and asking for information about the man in black, she says, well, you can probably figure out my price because there's a need that I have that I can't fulfill myself anymore. And
which is really awkward. Like that line delivery is just really weird, and that right. To me it says more about Stephen King than anything in this world.
Well, and another thing is throughout the series, sex is kind of used as a commodity a lot. Like, and sometimes it's as a currency, sometimes it's as a weapon or a defensive measure. Mm-hmm. But like it's always used for a very pointed purpose, and that's something that I'm not sure how I feel about.
Yeah.
And it's probably just how awkwardly that's phrased.
Yeah.
That it made me think, oh, some magical realism is going on here. But
well, there is an implied connection to something that happens later. To that, and I'll hit us when we're in the heat of that moment because I think that there may be some relation between this and something that again happened earlier, because guess what, we're gonna start going back in time again, like we're gonna go back to another layer.
Oh boy! All right, I'm into it.
Yeah, but no, like I love this detail too, that when La-di-da Mr. Gunslinger comes in dropping a gold piece on 3 burgers and some beer, everybody just kind of like the room goes silent and everybody looks up as she starts cooking the meat. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, and this is, and because the world is fucked, we get this, there's a lack of resources, right? Mm-hmm. And then here's somebody who's putting down some gold, which I guess everyone wants, but is ultimately useless.
Because nobody can make change for it.
Right. You're right.
Hey, he didn't buy any beans. Maybe the bean guy's got all the change in town.
Yeah, exactly. And like here's this guy eating. Like, I mean, I would be, as big old fat guy that I am, I don't think I can even eat 3 hamburgers in a sitting.
Yeah, I mean, he's been out on the hard pan for several days. He's been running for 8 months.
eating campfire bacon.
Yeah. wishing, praying that he had some beans for once.
So now getting onto the next part of the story, when Allie starts giving him information, we start hearing Allie's story, which is part of Roland's story, which is part of Roland's memory, which is part of the book that we are reading.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So that's where we're at now.
Wheels within wheels.
And then at that point, Nort tells Alice now. Everything collapses in on itself. And that's why it happens. It's not any magic. It's just the story structure.
Too many narrative layers. Oh no.
Right.
19 is the number of narrative layers that
If there's just like a little symbol on the side of each page to let you know which layer you were in.
Oh, Lord.
We're watching Sucker Punch here.
God, what a terrible thing. But no, there's this guy who's kind of like keeled over at one of the tables, and we've learned about this devil grass earlier in the opening. The gunslinger talks about, when you burn it, you can see spirits dancing inside of it, and some people smoke it, some people chew it, but they're pretty far gone. Well, Nort, he just has like green dribble coming out of the side of him, and I always picture Nort looking like Vincent D'Onofrio's character for Men in Black.
Okay.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
Gosh.
Excellent.
The farmer is exactly what I picture, and he's like this pathetic figure who is like an addict to this stuff, right? And the gunslinger says, "Yeah, he should be dead." And well, funny you should say that, because Allie has a story.
Yes.
A story that she would tell as soon as you have sex with her.
Yep. as soon as she gets hers. Yeah. But no, like the story is a while back, Nort walks into the bar with hell in his eyes, with a wide grin, having just chewed. He vomits green all down the front of him and then falls over dead.
Yeah, that's how people go. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty peaceful way to go in this world.
Yep. Died with a smile on his face, doing what he
Right.
loved.
Yeah,
Chewing
he
devil
didn't-
grass.
He didn't erupt in tumors. I guess he.
It's not the end of Videodrome. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they couldn't leave well enough alone. He had to become a pawn in the Man in Black's game, as he rolls up to Nort's wake with this horrid, happy grin and orders some whiskey. And again, Allie is all about this dude.
Yeah, he's wearing priest's robes, which is such an interesting touch too.
Robes without any kind of I want to say signal, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Sigil?
Any kind of symbol, on them. So we don't even know if they're actual preacher robes or priest robes, or they're just black robes at this point.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. And yet she is all about this dude upon like the very first. And again, we go through this whole thing where he orders a whiskey. There's some money exchange. She's like, "I got change for that." He's like, "Well, I'm not looking for it," which I guess is like her trigger word, because she's all into not giving change.
Yep. Keep the change. Oh, baby. And there's something off because when he orders another one, he says, "Once more with feeling," as they say in the world next door, which again, that is out of place here.
And they call attention to his eyes at this point, which I think are, I guess, it's either the gunslinger or he does it first. I don't remember. The gunslinger doesn't have any color in his eyes. Is that true? Or am I thinking someone else?
The gunslinger has like piercing blue eyes.
Well, okay. So yeah, here we go. So the sorcerer actually has, right. So at first the sorcerer is described as not having any color in his eyes, but then, after he's starting to work his magic, his eyes turn blue. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was like, oh, so this is something crazy is about to happen. Someone's eyes, evoking Dune was before this, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and blue eyes. Something's crazy about to happen. Someone's about to look through the sands of time, or something.
Yeah, he's going full Raiden.
Yeah. He is riding the worm.
Yeah. But so like he shows up and like he walks in the door, and this is Nort's wake, right? And so he starts doing a little bit of his voodoo, like summoning down a storm again with the Raiden angle, and spitting in Nort's face while Allie masturbates behind the bar, and the room just goes into a frenzy watching him do this ritual, right?
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about this until I read it again, but the ritual consists of him doing like flips over Nort's body.
Yep.
And I cannot wait to see Matthew McConaughey do this scene.
Yep.
Well, you're going to be waiting for a while, because they're not starting with the first book, right?
Yeah, I know.
That's so weird.
Wait,
Anyway.
what are they starting with?
They've just said they're going to start it. What's the fancy word for like in the middle that a lot of people like to use? There you go.
Yeah.
They're just said they're going to start in the middle. The one of the articles I saw said they want to save the Gunslinger for like maybe a TV show down the road, which seems weird, but whatever.
That's bizarre. I would have thought Drawing of the Three would be the TV show.
Yeah, I would, but I mean, I could see them starting up with the Wastelands, is because that's kind of a action packed book. So maybe they want to start the movie with there. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm assuming. Like that seems like it would be a good starting point, and then you can kind of branch off from there.
Yeah.
I'm so done with origin stories anyway that I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, I mean, they're not starting with Wizard and Glass, so.
Oh God. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to distract. Yeah,
No.
Home dude flips over this guy like 18 times or something, and then he comes back to life, which is super weird. And
was it 18 times or was it 19 times?
It was probably 19 times. Evan, you're absolutely right.
It depends on which version you're reading.
So I wanted just to point this out. It's my Southern upbringing here. And it seems like it's an important thing where they're very much contrasting against with priesthood and the divine. This reminds me a lot of the kind of the big tent revival kind of thing. There's something you would see someone do in a big tent revival, like jumping over the sick. Like that's a thing people do.
He's doing flips for Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, like I don't want to, like, if you're into that.
Yep.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Have you guys have y'all seen Carnival, that kind of 2-season HBO show? Because the preacher in Carnival really strikes me as a Man in Black kind of character. Because he does that, like he's full on healing hands the whole night, and he gets kind of crazy and weird. Like I think that dude would have made a good Man in Black as well. But yeah, it's exactly what Murph is talking about, like that big tent, like kill you with my hands and knock you out, and people dropping on the floor, he's speaking in tongues. Gets a little crazy in there.
And as someone who has witnessed that, oh boy,
oh yeah.
Not for me.
Yep. live and let live for sure, but it's a spectacle.
Yes.
Yeah. But let me see here. This is a great contrast too, because like we have the gunslinger who is so solemn, right? Who is so self-serious and doesn't talk. And then we have the Man in Black, this apparent like agent of chaos, coming in and talking about like, hey, even death isn't irreversible, but it's so goddamn funny. Like this is all a prank to him.
Right. Yeah. Like he has no reason to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I mean, he does, but there are easier ways.
Mm-hmm.
But this,
but I mean, he's doing it just to fuck with the gunslinger.
Yeah, I mean, he's a villain. Like he's never going to take the easy way to kill the hero, right?
Right.
He's got to have a plan. He's got to have a base. Preferably, the base is on the moon or on an asteroid. Like he's got to go through a process here.
Well, and also like in the entire Gunslinger, I don't remember if it happens in at the end if we find out that Walter O'Dim is Randall Flagg, but at this point we only know him as Walter O'Dim.
Right.
But if you've read The Stand, it's pretty clear that this is the same character, just like the really weird, demented, like just everything is a joke sensibility, which was what made The Stand so just intensely creepy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so this character, Walter O'Dim, he's identified in this note that he gives to Nord that is passed along to Allie, that contains kind of this mind trap. But this character, I believe at the end it is confirmed, like, hey, I've had many names over many different, kind of iterations, I suppose. And like I one of them was Randall Flagg, and Randall Flagg is actually linked back to, again, saying I've had many names, and he was like Narathotep from the Lovecraft kind of stuff. Like he is Stephen King's all-purpose trickster magician, like a devil character almost.
Yeah. Which
can we camp out on the note for a minute?
Yes.
This whole note is probably the distillation of what I really don't like about the revised version of this book. That does not excuse me. This does not exist in the original at all.
The note
does not exist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
So like this whole mind trap thing just doesn't. It never comes up in the original book. So jumping ahead and I'll let us get there naturally, but jumping ahead for what this eventually means for the gunslinger leaving this town, like none of that. That's all more the town went crazy and not Walter set a trap.
Oh.
Like none of this exists, and it's kind of it's weird reading this nowadays. Like when you're looking at this and okay, so I guess this was a specific trickster god trick, but like I don't know. Like to me, it worked better as Like, he just ran through and his natural chaos just rubbed off on these people the wrong way. There was probably a better way to express that than rubbed off. But
Ali was doing all of that. Did he sorry. You got to make jokes about it, because it's so goofy. But did he revive Nort in the story? Because I could see that being like, like he does this, and then that puts the preacher on edge. Mm-hmm. And she, like, regardless, she turns the town against him anyway. So, like, this is just a way to a way to set up Roland having to kill Ali for pretty much no reason, making her a prop in his story.
And there's this, and there's one other spot that I'll talk about in this chapter, and then I promise I'll drop the whole comparison thing. I don't know if that's interesting to the audience at large, but like,
I'm as someone who doesn't know, it's interesting because now that you mention it, like, it's weird that he gave himself two kind of reasons why the town went crazy. One is Ali said 19 to Noth, or also Sylvia just, getting revenge, if you will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what's the other comparison?
At some point, and we're kind of all over the place, so I apologize.
That's fine, don't
worry. At some point, the piano player who has been identified as this guy Sheb. Sheb has, and there's an early moment where the gunslinger is like, I think I recognize that guy. And then as the gunslinger and Ali are hooking up, Sheb rolls in with a knife thinking he's going to stab the gunslinger, which doesn't seem like a good idea. And that's when the gunslinger says, "Oh, hey, I know you. You were back there at Magus, and you were there with the." And he's like, "Well, you were just a boy." None of that existed, and that's all like 3 books ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all. Like, that's foundations for like book 4, and none of that was in the original. Like, it's just weird to see that stuff. Like, it's almost off-putting to somebody who's familiar with the original book. So again, it's nitpicky stuff, but I kind of find it interesting that what he changed versus what he didn't change. Like, he's leaving in the woman just masturbating for no reason as we resurrect a dead man, but we have to have
that was the other reason why I thought something magical was going on with sex. I mean, not that. Oh, never mind.
Don't worry.
I'm just mad at myself for that one.
No, but just something is off with the way that is treated in the world. Yeah, it's funny. Like all those revisions, especially the stuff that were like really really stuck out, is like, oh, I know where that pops in. I know where I recognize that. Like, the revisions were made to make it look like he had planned most of this out from the beginning.
Exactly. And which is not true at all.
Right. Anyway, yeah. But this note, as we've kind of alluded to, it is from the Man in Black, and it's written to Ali and saying like, hey, if you want to know the secrets of death, just say the secret word 19 to him, and he'll tell you, oh, it's going to drive you mad, and you're not going to be able to resist doing this. Have fun.
So I'm going to defend the note here, because I think this actually tells you something about the world, and not necessarily about the mysticism. Because if someone handed me a note and said, hey, there's this guy in this town, if you ever say 19 to him, you'll go crazy. I would just move.
Well, nobody can make change, so it probably wouldn't pop up in too many transactions.
Right. But so here's the thing though, like, and I'm being flippant and all that, but there's nowhere to move to. Is the idea. Like, Ali, like, sure, she might lose her mind in town, but there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, there's no hope anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, she could go hang out with Brown. He seems to have a pretty sweet gig.
Right. Yeah. All the corn you can eat.
Yeah.
As long as you piss on it first.
All the piss corn.
Oh boy.
And so, Ali is telling the story to the gunslinger in bed. Here, and she asks, like, is he serious? What should I do? And the gunslinger again says something that I think, like, this is a really cool sentence. The man who signed himself Walter O'Dim is a lot of things, but a liar isn't one of them. So, like, he is not, like, being deceitful here. He is dead serious about it.
Right.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into the rising action of this a little bit, because things things get out of control pretty quick. There's a disturbing scene with Kennerly, the hostler, and his exhibitionist daughters who are tweaking their nipples at the Gunslinger, which I didn't understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, again, this is me. I just attributed this to like, and did everyone see Waterworld?
Yes,
I have. Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, wow, fresh genetic stock.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
now that you mentioned, there are a lot of, like, I guess there are a lot of chicks that are like getting a little crazy with this stuff. You're kind of right. Like, I never really put all this stuff together, but it's a little weird that the magic is making all the ladies so horny.
Yeah.
Like, that's why. And I mean, if we don't attribute it to magic, it could be hey, this town has a limited breeding pool, and we're already kind of, people are double dipping, if you will.
Yeah.
Someone new in the pool is good.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't like, if Stephen King isn't making this kind of a weird magic thing, maybe that's it. I don't know.
I could see that, and that's kind of how I read it. Like just another way, again, the rules, showing, I'm going to say this word, it's going to sound like I'm sex negative here, the degradation of like just the way that we expect things to go. Like it is a way for him to demonstrate that things are weird in a very potent shorthand.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's the weird scene where Kennerly distracts him while his daughter tries to brain him with a piece of firewood, essentially.
Yeah, to get his stuff. It's like, that's not a good idea.
But I think his reaction is great, and like he expected them to try and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, yeah, all right, yeah, you go away, give me my mule. I'm expecting my mule back eventually. It's not like, oh, I'm taking my mule and going because you tried to kill me. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, could you keep him another day, please? Also, don't hit me with this piece of wood.
Yeah, everybody gets one free shot.
Right.
Yeah, but it's coming up on Sunday, and there's this preacher woman in town, Sylvia Pittston, who Allie doesn't like because she says she's got poison religion. And Roland goes down to see this sermon that happens to be on the topic of the interloper, this one figure from the Bible, again a figment of this world. In that one, the one figure of this Bible that she has no relation to, no sympathy for, this gibbering madness, right? This unholy glee. And she's very much describing this, Walter O'Dim, this man in black, the Antichrist, a crimson king with bloody eyes, right? Who made the machines stamped with Lamerck. Again, one of these things that was seeded back, calling forward into the series. But, she's very much talking about the man in black, but instead this turns around to become about the Gunslinger.
Right. And like I want to, his description of her is just insane.
Yeah.
She is a fit, like she's described as 300 pounds, but like, I didn't have like, oh, she's rotund. No, she's 300 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. Like legs like phrase, slabs.
Yeah.
Breast like earthworks stuck out to me.
Yeah.
And I don't even, do you think Stephen King had seen breasts before he wrote this book? Because that's a weird expression.
Yeah, I'm doing a Google image search on earthworks right now, and I'm seeing a bunch of crop circles, what appears to be crop circles or edge mazes.
Like she's healthy, right? Which is just in direct contrast
to everybody else.
Yeah, to everyone else. And I guess it's revealed later that she's not from here. She's from beyond the desert.
Yeah, she rolled in about 12 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So she knows something that I don't know right now, and you guys know.
Sorry, but no, she she has this health about her that really gets the Gunslinger's motor rolling, and he wants to know more about this again because of this sermon. So he finds out where she lives, and we get this pretty upsetting encounter between the two of them.
See, I got that desire coming from the fact that there was a demon inside of her. Like I thought that was more of a symptom that way.
So he knows, like he can spot
Right.
it from a mile away. I didn't link that with the desire that he felt for her.
Well, I'm not, again, not basing that on anything, but that would be consistent. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, did anybody else have a hypothesis about that?
No, I really didn't.
I also don't know who, and I guess this is a child of the Crimson King, and I don't know who that is.
Right.
So,
You know who the Crimson King is, right?
I do not. Don't spoil it.
Well, no, I mean, you read The Stand, though.
It was a while ago, but I mean, the devil.
Yeah. I didn't think about this earlier when y'all asked me, but none of this Crimson King shit is in the original novel either, so that's all new.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And this is stuff from book 5 and beyond.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to get into any of that. I'm sorry.
So is she pregnant in the original?
Yes.
Yeah, she has a demon. She has something unholy from the Man in Black. He says, "Oh, he screwed you in more ways than one."
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Multiple. It's like innuendo.
Definitely innuendo, a double entendre, and the gunslinger's like, yeah, we gotta get that thing out of you. And thankfully, it doesn't go into too much detail. Although that definitely, I'm not sure what happens. There's something special about the guns.
That's about as much as I drew.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to talk about this. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know what he does here, but she gets really mad at him, and I don't like. There's at one point he says like he doesn't want her special flesh or something, and like it just gets really grody. Like I'm just not. Like I just.
I think it also just shows that sex is dangerous.
Yeah, just in all of our lives. No,
yeah,
no. Here,
sex and demons are dangerous.
Yes, and they're the
sex
two
and guns.
Yeah, but yeah, like he does something with the gun, which details later on will reveal like there's something special about them that I am just going to assume that proximity to the demon causes it to die, which upsets her.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that because the gunslinger wants to roll out of town, and Sylvia wants some blood. And so as he is kind of gathering up his stuff, he notices, hey, it's pretty quiet out here, and the townspeople ambush him in a scene that might as well just be the beginning of Resident Evil 4.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that are got maybe with less schoolgirls, the Kill Bill.
Yeah, but yeah, like so the first attack here is from somebody who is holding Allie hostage, and she rolls up and she begs Roland to kill her. Like she doesn't want her life. Kill me, Roland, kill me. This is the first time we hear his name in the book. I said the word 19. and he told me I can't bear it. So she is out of her mind, and they know that Roland is close to her, and so he does what his hands were trained and bred to do, and he takes her out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this starts off like this flurry of action that for a book called The Gunslinger, we're 70 pages in pretty much before we even get one of these. And just the precision with which he is described as doing this is pretty impressive.
Well, and I mean, that's consistent with Westerns though, right? It's not, Westerns aren't action free-for-alls until they are.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of build up, but then the payoff's pretty great when you get there. And yeah, the mob that is kind of ambushing him, Sylvia's obviously leading it, but then Nort being crucified on the roof of the church was something that was always really an interesting touch, I thought. Because it kind of draws Nort's role in all of this into question.
How so?
Well, just, like Nort was dead, and then the Man in Black brought him back, and then he was just kind of around. And Sylvia was a fan of the Man in Black, and I would have thought that she would have been, kind of a protector of Nort or in favor of Nort being there.
Yeah.
And that is clearly not the case. And it's not really explained why she is not. I guess I would assume that she would be protective of anything that has a connection to Walter.
Yeah. Nord specifically says, "Oh, I'm here because God touched me," right? And so if this whole town is under a spell, from the Man in Black down through Sylvia, that that God has a hand in this, like Nord should be Lazarus, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we've got this kind of, there's this juxtaposition of what is the divine and what's evil, and what should be what is called divine is actually evil, mm-hmm. and what is normally a man with a gun is something is the good guy, mm-hmm. if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's we have all these reversals, and right. she is leading this mob as though Roland is the monster. Like she's rallied them up against him as though he is the devil. Yeah, I can't square away why Nord is crucified either.
So is this a double trap? In other words, has the Man in Black set up Nort so that when Allie triggered him with the mind control phrase, he becomes something to be demified? I can't speak.
Demonized?
Demonized. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's right.
So that kind of all of a sudden whips this crowd who's already been whipped up with these interloper, fire and brimstone kind of speeches into mm-hmm. crucifying Nort, and then taking all of that energy and going after Roland.
Yeah, led by Sylvia, who has her own motive. Exactly.
And I think there's some imagery there where when Sylvia comes after Roland, he's like having the whole time he's shooting all of this town, like it is everybody in town.
Yep.
He's reloading as fast as he can, and there's moments where he can only fit 4 bullets in, and then he shoots 4 people before he has to roll away, and then he can do 1 gun, and then he can do 2 guns. Mm-hmm. But he takes the time to shoot the 2 crosses that Sylvia's carrying out of her hand first before shooting her in the head 4 times. So he wasted an entire gun's worth of ammunition on her. And he didn't really have to, he's a precision shot. So mm-hmm. that to me is more symbolic of she's the one she's the energy driving all of this. And what set her free on this was Nort being set free. Yeah. So this whole thing was a trap in and of itself, which I kind of dig. I guess it makes the note better in retrospect, which I know I said I didn't like before, but I guess it does make it a little bit more of a fun trap for Walter. So maybe it does actually work for me a little bit. But I like that idea of Nort being tied into it and an unwitting pawn.
And who knows if Nort wasn't just flying around with glowing eyes and spitting laser beams out of his mouth, revealing the secret of death to all after she said it, right? It says something here,
right?
Yeah, like that. We don't know what exactly happened to him that made that the case. It also shows that what the stakes are in this. The Man in Black sees this almost like a game. This is a joke that he's playing.
Yeah, and at the end of it, 39 men, 14 women, and 5 children are dead.
Yes.
Did anybody else try to add all that up and try to get a multiple of 19? Because that's the first thing I
did. You beat me to it.
Let's see here. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Yep. Mm.
Yep. Mm. But, so this entire town is dead. What was once a small bastion of, just life clinging to life in the desert is now just gone and is going to be reclaimed by the sands, as we see happens later on in different chapters here, as Roland raids the bar and takes all the food and water, grabs his mule, and then moves on, much like the world did.
He takes a nap. I mean, he goes to sleep.
Yeah.
With all of the dead people in the town, and it specifically says he goes to sleep and has no dreams.
Yes,
which shows you how a cold, calculated motherfucker this guy is.
This is just another day for him.
And I like the imagery that afterwards, when he's leaving town, and it's just all the bodies just rolled south like tumbleweeds.
Yep.
No need to clean it up. The wind will take care of it.
Oh gosh, skeleton tumbleweeds.
Oh Jesus.
Yep. I'm down.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
But the fact that this town's not going to be here long.
And that's pretty much the end of the chapter. There's some wrap up after the flashback with Brown, but we're kind of getting back to the present.
Roland thanks Brown for his hospitality, and again, we get that absolution, right? Where, Roland says like, yeah, just don't you think I'm a monster? And Brown says, well, no, I mean, you feel bad. You're not a demon. Kind of sounds like you did what you had to do. And so Roland, goes on into the desert, right? And, he's kind of got his old friends on his mind as he is wont to do, as we're going to see throughout the rest of this book and throughout the rest of the series, including his old trainer Court, who we're going to get to know really well next time. So I want to get some, your guys' final thoughts on the chapter here before we wrap up. Does anybody have anything that kind of sticks out in like a final summary here?
I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but this entire book and the first chapter especially, it's kind of a mini masterclass on world building. Mm-hmm. It's just everything is so just well conveyed.
Yep.
And it paints this picture, this really evocative picture, and it's the writing is very visual. But at the same time, there are a lot of details that are left to the imagination.
Yeah. Or will be for several thousand pages.
Yeah.
and so that throws back to it. Like, Jeremy, I'm really happy that we have your perspective, coming to this from the original version, though, that was pre-revision. Like, a lot of the stuff that really tickles me about this is it is kind of the proper nouns, right? The stuff that the algal ciento and the tahine and stuff like that. That
child.
Yeah. In the back of my mind, and I know it's going to get there, and like, I don't remember that stuff being there. I'm curious to go back and see if that sense of world building is still there without those proper nouns kind of littered throughout, or if it kind of defaults back to like atmosphere and suspense.
It's difficult. The last time I read this was several years ago, and because me and my wife both did a total reread. And rereading the first book, and this was like the original paperback that I had that I can't find anymore for some reason, but it was just as good as it was when I was a kid. Like, to me, it's better because it leaves so much stuff off the table, and that when that stuff eventually happens, it's kind of after the fact, and this stands on its own. It's kind of like if you had like if it's I don't remember who said it. I think it was Evan said like this. It's a first album, and then of a band you really like, and they continually get better, but there's something about that first album that's just good and great that they never quite get to again. Like, that's how I feel about this book, and about the revisions later. Like, I'm gonna come up with a terrible example, but like if Radiohead did a Kid A cover album and like went back, and you're like, well, this is okay, and it's obviously technically maybe more mature, but like, it's not Kid A. Like, it's not the Kid A that I smoked pot to when I was in college. So right. I hate it. And I don't want to be that guy, but I'm kind of curious as we go forward from here. Like, did he go back and revise the Drawing of the Three or the Wastelands after when he was finishing this out? Are all those the same? Like, I'm
very little, if anything. I remember reading the Drawing of the Three the first time, and he says like, yeah, I intended to go back and rewrite the first 4 books to make it square up. And by the time he got to the Drawing of the Three, he said like, yeah, I really didn't need it.
Yeah. And I can definitely see that. And those books are so much larger than this book that those details are a lot more easily lost.
Right.
There's so much that's not there in this book that every added thing that I saw when I read it today, I was like, yep, that's new. That's new. That's new. That's new.
It sticks out like a sore thumb.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Evan, how about you? How long has it been since you've read this book?
At this point, probably 8 or 9 years.
Okay.
So there's a lot of the revisions, like the first 2 times I read through it, it was with my dad's old paperback, and so this is my first time reading it with the revisions. But it's been so long for me that there's just some stuff where it's like, oh, I don't remember. Like, I didn't remember the note or the thing about 19 or any of that, but I just kind of chalked it up to, oh, it's been almost a decade since I read it. I've, it has been literally an entire college education and then some ago.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So yeah, definitely, like, this is going to be interesting going back through it because I really remember the broad strokes of the story, and like, I'm finding a lot of delight in the details, specifically the visual stuff. And and the way that the action is described, and like what that shows about the characters. But like I don't remember any of that from when I went, aside from like key phrases. So this rereading project is going to be very interesting, I think. So before we wrap up, Murph, I know you had an idea about a segment that we could do, because you are coming to this fresh.
Right. And I think since I haven't read this, I should just wildly prognosticate, make some stuff up, and tell you what's going to happen in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Clearly, this is because I can write just as well as Stephen King, right? So the next chapter is the way station. And clearly the Man in Black is going to come across a station. It's going to first seem empty at first, but then he's going to meet, we'll say, another woman, because I don't know, it seems right. And then there's some kind of existential threat that they have to go out of the way station to kill, but then they don't get all of it, and then it comes back at night. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, we'll find out if you're right.
Don't tell me if I'm wrong.
We're not.
Clearly not.
We need to make like a little scorecard out of all of those elements, and then give him a rating at the end of each week.
Yep.
Tell him how right he is.
and just see, because some of that is actually very eerie.
All right, nice.
Yeah.
I told you I'm better at writing than Stephen King.
That is a bold claim. Cool. So let's talk about where people can find us as we draw to a close here. Murph, how about you give us a start?
So I've got a billion things, but I have consolidated them all to dinosaursarecool.com.
Great.
I make video games, I make podcasts, I make tabletop. All of it's there, all of it's free. Check it out.
Nice. Where can people find you on Twitter?
At Dork Night Show, which is my primary other podcast.
Nice. Jeremy, how about you?
You could find my normal gaming podcast at darkinsight.net, and then you can find me on Twitter at JG Greer, where I pretty much do nothing but talk about Dark Souls and Demon Souls and Bloodborne. So if you don't like those things, it's probably not a good follow.
I saw a GIF today, and I want to talk about it so bad, but I'm being respectful.
You know that you shouldn't.
I know.
You know that you shouldn't.
I am so salty about this Dark Souls 3 marketing, y'all. So salty.
You mean the wings? We're really dating ourselves here, because I don't know if this is going to come out before that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. But no, don't worry. But if you want some of the old some of the old Dark Souls stuff, definitely follow Jeremy. He knows what he's talking about. And Evan, how about you?
I am currently putting together evanjonesthorne.com, but I don't know if that'll be anything special by the time this episode airs. You can also find me on Twitter at Mr_Harder, and I run another Twitter called Sad Paul Stanley, which is really dumb.
Love that. And you can find me at Kole Ross. That's KOLEROSS on Twitter, and on a bunch of other shows at Duckfeed.tv. I'm not sure what kind of admin to do for this, because I don't know where it's living at the moment. But when you find out where this is at, I will put some calls to action on there to tell you how you can help the show out. So I would like to thank the assembled panel here. Thank you, thank you, Murph. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Evan. And until next time, what should they remember to do?
Pee on the corn?
Yep.
Did you have to call before, or did I answer on the first try?
You answered on the first try.
Yes. Just got done brushing a 1-year-old's teeth.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I had no idea if I was going to make it.
Yeah.
You're really making me look bad. I was just playing video games.
It wasn't even his 1-year-old. He's the tooth hygiene vigilante.
No, this was I technically own this one.
You don't have any payments left?